Growing up in rural southern Wisconsin, a Swiss-German home, life was fairly prescribed and orderly. When that was followed by a schooling that further reinforced rote memory and strict obedience to authority, the basic dimensions of life were starting to take shape. I was served well by this part of my history as I pilgrimed through my Bible school and seminary days. Even the early stages of my teaching post in South Africa was reflected through that early framework. But as the apartheid system of South Africa began to show its ugly head to us, the categories of my childhood and education to that point proved an inadequate framework from which to build my understanding and response to that evil system. Yet I kept stumbling into ways that I could, in some measure at least, identify with my brothers and sisters who were so severely oppressed in this otherwise lovely land. My stumbling was seen as honest effort by the people of color, but not particularly welcomed by people of my color. Having neither words nor categories by which to voice the inner workings of my mind, mental fog settled in, making clarity and reasoned judgment very difficult. It was about this time that a couple of guys came to Zimbabwe for a workshop in theological education by extension, probably having just come from Nigeria. One name I recognize from my undergraduate days at Michigan State was Ted Ward. I convinced a couple of my colleagues to join me in the 1,000-mile trek from South Africa to Salisbury, now Harare, to experience this week-long event. And I assured them that they would not be disappointed if they got to know and they got to sit under the teaching and experience of Ted Ward. Following the registration, I went to see Ted for two reasons. One was a familiar place in a foreign country is always a delightful thing, but also I had some questions. While he sat in a chair by the desk in his room, the only remaining place for me to sit was on his bed, over which hung his laundry. While dodging the periodic drips, we had a reasonably rational discussion. Here's what I remember. He asked me about my experiences teaching in South Africa. I told him what I enjoyed and what was troubling me. Then he asked, "What are you going to do about it?" I responded, "Well, I'm going to do a PhD in theology." To which he responded, "You can do that if you want, but I'm not sure it will help." "Why?" I asked. "Because theologians are not asking the questions you are asking, making it unlikely that you'll get satisfactory answers." Now that was a new thought. Theologians did not have all the answers. Well, my boat was rocked. My entire future was just shot down in about 3 seconds. With my head spinning, I tried to recover. "So who is asking these questions?" To which he quickly replied, "We are at Michigan State." I did not know it at the time, but this would be the light at the end of the tunnel that would begin to disperse the fog and the confusion that I was experiencing in these years in apartheid South Africa. But it would also start me in a trajectory that would become a lifelong adventure in the pursuit of understanding that draws not only from God's truth through the Scripture, but also God's truth through creation. In my judgment, this is a good part of the genius that Ted brought through his life and teachings, and thus to his students. This pursuit, then, of God's truth through Scripture and creation brought considerable cognitive dissonance as I re-examined my core assumptions about life, the nature of human existence, values, culture, learning, justice, ethics, morality, reason, responsibility, sovereignty, civility, all in reference to who God was and what his role was in this world. The result, hopefully, would be some sense of my perspective on this world and my role in it. Such understanding is not only adventurous, but dangerous, thus requiring a guide who was on the same journey, but a little bit further down the road. One who could help with the pitfalls and the inevitable fog and of course, the ongoing cognitive struggles. And so it was that Ted Ward became my guide and intellectual father. And as I continue to strung forward in the journey, I give thanks to Ted for his wonderful guidance, his wonderful companionship that have been with me lo these 50-plus years. And I hope that by God's grace, others will remember me in a similar way. He was with me on the journey towards what it meant to be Christ in this world, like Christ. And to God be the glory.